Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to episode 10, where we're going to wrap up the painting and weathering of Tamiya's brand new M36. I guess by now the kit's are available in store. This one's taken a little while, but yeah, stick around and we'll get this one done. So when we left off last time, we basically had everything ready for paint. I like to mount everything on alligator clips just for ease of handling while we're painting. I'm using Tamiya LP28 lacquer olive drab for my olive drab colour. It's a really nice paint. To me, you can't go wrong. Just make sure everything gets a good coat. I thin the paint slightly with Tamiya lacquer thinner or Gun's Mr. Leveling thinner, either way. And now I'm just going to paint the ammo locker canvas bags with a bit of canvas colour, and the ammo ends with some MRP brass, which we'll get to later on. So there's a couple of decals to apply for the interior, a few of the fire extinguishers, and I've painted in some of the detail with some various khakis and OD colours, and some black for the leather seats or faux leather seats. And there's a really nice couple of fire extinguisher decals there. As much as I like detail painting, it kind of annoys me because I want to get onto weathering as much as I can. So then the first step in weathering, I'm going to apply my acrylic wash with some Vallejo German camouflage beige. This just adds a really nice sort of grubby, dusty, dirty look. I just brush that in everywhere I can. Very unscientific, but it does get it done. Let's make sure we cover all surfaces. And then I'm going to add some silver wear, some bit of paint chipping, that sort of stuff, with some Tamiya enamel chrome silver. Look, this does seem really, really bright, but you remember we're going to be looking down inside a dark interior, so I just want a little bit of shine on some of the metal parts, and the silver, it's a bit exaggerated, but looking down inside a dark interior, it does show up quite nicely. And gluing on these case ends is a fun exercise. They're really small and they have a tendency to launch themselves into space. I'm using Tamiya orange cap glue because it gives me a little bit extra drying time, and they do just pop in quite nicely into the turret bustle ammo racks. Just gonna jam them in there with a pair of tweezers. They look really nice. Bit of bling on the interior. And then Tamiya moulded these canvas ammo rack covers as one piece, or there's two of them, so two pieces I guess, and they just click in perfectly. And then my go-to for oil stains and grubby, dirty look, Tamiya panel line washers, and I just splash that around because it'd be pretty dirty down in there. I'm going to add some metallic shine to the gun breech. So I've already given it a bit of a dry brush with silver, but I'm now adding some additional metallic sheen with some pencil, grey lead pencil, and then I just burnish that with an old cut-off brush just to get a bit of added shine and sheen to that gun breech area. It looks quite good. Once the turret interior is all painted and weathered, we can glue on the last of the turret pieces, so the gun mount and the little roof section, and they fit on perfectly as you'd expect from Tamiya. And then we can glue the mantlet on as well. Here I'm just using the orange cap again, just to give me a little bit more wiggle room, a little bit more time to get that mantlet fitting perfectly. And for masking, I decided to, for markings I should say, I decided to make up my own masks. So I just cut some stars and some lettering using my silhouette cutter on some Oramask vinyl. I'm actually going with the reverse masking. I don't know if it's positive or negative masking, I don't know which way you describe it, but I painted the white on first, and then using the center section of the mask to mask out the white areas that I want to keep white, and then just apply that mask there. So it's pretty simple. Big star in the front, and stars on the side, and a whole bunch of small mask and letters as well. And that way you can spray straight over the top with OD colour, and then at the end peel the masks off, and you've got some nice white lettering. So again, for my OD colour, I'm using Tamiya LP28 lacquer olive drab, which is a really nice base coat. You can see I've used some foam, packing foam, to mask off the interior. It's easier than using masking tape. It just fits the hole perfectly. Roll the wheels around, make sure you get the paint in all the nooks and crannies. Now to start the fading process, I mixed some flat flesh in with the olive drab. Just it adds a slight lightness to the paint. It lightens the paint, I should say. You can see it there, it's just started to fade out the top section there on the whole top and on the whole sides. And to further enhance that, I'm going to mix in some AK faded olive drab, which is a really nice faded OD colour. And you could just go straight over the top, but I've decided to mix it with a little bit of the original Tamiya paint, and it does mix really well. And it adds some lightness, but also a bit of yellow to the paint as well. It's sort of hard to see here, but yeah, it does a really nice job of fading out that colour. Now we get the fun bit of peeling off the masks. See, everything remains. Now I named this vehicle Betty. Thought, why not? It's a B company vehicle. It's also my grandma's name. But yeah, not that she fought in the war or was the M36 crewman, but you know, peeling off the masks is always super satisfying. And painting tyres is also super satisfying. I've resorted to using these AK real colour or AK colour markers, and it honestly took less than 5 minutes to paint the wheels. What didn't take 5 minutes was painting tool handles. It shits me painting, detail painting, and tool handles and tools specifically. Pardon my language, but geez, it's annoying. Anyway, lots of detail painting. Stupid Shermans. Stupid American vehicles, so I don't mean that. While we've got the AK 3rd Gen paints out, paint the stowage on the turret, I just mixed up a bunch of different greens, and these are all brush painted, just so that they're not all the same colour. By the time it's all weathered and everything, you kind of won't be able to tell too much, but you can see that it's there. And I thought I'd give these Pro Acryl paints a try for painting with some metallic shades. This is their dark silver colour, like a gunmetal colour, and it's brilliant. It paints so well. Paints even better than AK 3rd Gen, to be honest. So, yeah. The model was then given a couple of very light coats of the AK chipping fluid. Then I mixed up from AK 3rd Gen acrylics a dusty, sort of browny, very thin mix of paint, just to give us a dusty overspray that goes over the top of the, there you go, just testing it on the underside of the model. Don't turn this upside down. This was sprayed over all the running gear on the lower half of the model just to start the dusty faded process. So this is over the top of the chipping fluid. Once this was allowed to dry, which doesn't take long because it's, you know, AK 3rd Gen acrylics, it's sort of, once it's dry, it's really easy to chip, so that's why I went with this product rather than Tamiya or any other product. Although the chipping fluid does work fairly well, I do find that the process is a bit hit and miss. It's really hard to replicate the same effect every time. So as much as I like the process, it kind of annoys me that it's not super easy replicable. I see some people, some excellent modelers are able to achieve really consistent results with this process. I can't, and it annoys me. Maybe I need to practice more. Anyway, I just got a couple of scabby old brushes to start the process of chipping this dust layer back, and I start with a fan brush because it's really cool, and then just wet the brush, and it's a matter of just making streaks and scrubbing around on the paint, and this wears away the AK 3rd Gen acrylics, showing the original sort of OD colour underneath, which looks really nice and imparts a really nice dirty, dusty sort of finish. The model that I'm depicting is from the 607th Tank Destroyer Battalion, sort of late in the war, so it's quite dusty and dirty, but not necessarily super muddy. And this effect is really quite, you know, appropriate for the time frame that I'm modelling. And see, once it's all dry, you can see just remnants of the dust and, you know, sort of accumulated in crevices and corners and stuff, and the OD shows through. Next up is to apply an enamel wash. I try to avoid these, but they are really useful sometimes. So this is just some AK enamel wash for olive drab. That's a brown sort of colour. And then just thinned really heavily with enamel thinners and then just brushed on. It's really, really nice for sort of highlighting detail. And because it's an enamel rather than, I guess, an acrylic, it doesn't affect the paint underneath. And then I just use some kitchen paper just to dab off any excess. And by using the sort of folded over end, you don't get corners, you don't get sharpness to it. And then I resort to my my favourite, which is my Vallejo German Camouflage Beige wash. These acrylic washes are just, I love them. It really imparts a fantastic dusty, dirty, grimy look to the model, but it also remains quite subtle. And if you thin this heavily enough, you tend not to get tide marks, which is a bit of a common thing with acrylics. And you can see here I'm brushing it straight over the model that's had enamels applied, so it has some interesting effects there, but that's kind of what I'm aiming for. So I just brushed over. You can see it's super heavily thinned, and it's just tap water I'm thinning it with. And it just accumulates and looks like a dusty, dirty sort of effect. And if, when doing this, you're concerned about the tide marks and stuff, you can just dab it away with some of the accumulation with, you can dab it away with kitchen paper or with a Q-tip or cotton bud, whatever works for you. And apply the same thing on the hull. I just really like the way that it accumulates around detail. And see there's a bit of surface tension in this. You can put a tiny touch of hand soap or dishwashing soap in with your mix. It doesn't create bubbles or anything like that, but it does help break surface tension. I just find that keep manipulating the paint around or the wash around, and it tends to break that surface tension up quite nicely. So you brush it over everything around the details, just let it flow where it wants to flow, and yeah, let it settle, and dab away any excess if you find it's a bit much on the model, or just move it around with a brush. You can catch any tide marks that way. It's it's pretty unscientific and pretty simple process. Acrylics shouldn't work this way, but they do, and you know, this Vallejo German Camo Beige is my absolute favourite weathering technique. I also concentrate a good amount of the acrylic wash on the flat upper surfaces of the hull top where dust would accumulate, that sort of thing. And when you get your surface wet enough, the dust spots really, or the wash really blends in nicely. You can see it doing that there around the turret ring and on the flat spot of the hull top. It's a really pleasing effect too once it dries off, which it does nice and quickly, being an acrylic. Next step is to start applying some mud, some actual texture. I use these terrains, pastes, just mixing up so a mid-brown colour with in the inside of the lid of one of the tubs there. This is fantastic stuff to use. It's acrylic based, so it blends with tap water. I just mix up a gooey amount, see as I go, and then just apply it straight onto the model. Make sure you get in behind. Make sure you get it in focus to start with. Make sure you get in behind all the suspension components and that sort of stuff, and up onto the underside of the fenders there. And then just with a wet brush, goop some more on around the back of the hull. Make sure you don't miss anything. And then just with a wet brush with straight tap water, just blend it around and smudge it around a bit, just so that it sits and falls nicely. You're really just making sure that you got some good coverage, and that way it dries off really nicely, and don't have to be uniform about it. And that's the beauty of adding this sort of mud texture is, you use your imagination, look at photos of real tanks and real dirty vehicles, and just go nuts. So again, before it dries, because it does dry pretty quickly, I just blend it with tap water, and see I've just got all different shades of it on the whole side. And the more you blend, the better it looks. It doesn't have to be, don't have to put too much thought into it, but it is pleasing. And look, on the rear of the hull where mud would have been flipped up by the tracks, I just apply it straight onto the model, and just with a small amount of blending, some different shades and some nice lumpy bits, because lumpy bits are important, right? This is a really pleasing thing to do. I really enjoy doing this. And so I'm using just different parts of the palette there, or the lid, the palette, with different colours and different tones and stuff, just making sure it's on there. And then same on the whole side as well. And you can see the dried mud on the wheels and suspension there, and I'm just adding a little bit of extra texture on the whole rear. Yeah, this is super fun. And also on the whole front as well, on the front fenders, just with a bit of extra spatter. And the beauty of this product is you can blend it away with water. You can see I'm just blending it in, and it just softens the edges a little bit, and adds a little bit of an extra dirty patina look. And you can also add some acrylic paint to your mud mix, and I'm actually adding some Vallejo Camouflage Beige here. Again, this sort of ties it in with the dusty washes that I've used. and it all just sort of adds to the extra dirtiness, but also ties in some of those colours as well. And just blend it again same way. Off camera, the Panzerwerk design tracks were given a coat of Tamiya dark earth and black mixed together to give us a nice dark brown sort of base coat. I'm going to start by painting the end connectors and guide teeth with this Pro Acryl dark silver, which is a really nice gunmetal colour, sort of a nice track colour as well. Really super basic process, just dry brush really roughly the end connectors and guide teeth with this sort of gunmetal silver colour. By being quite rough with it, you leave lots of the brown in the detail, which is what you want. And then don't forget to dry brush the insides of the guide teeth as well, where they contact the teeth and the sprocket. And this seems really messy at the moment, but there is a plan, trust me. Next up, I'm going to dry brush the track pads themselves with some AK rubber black. And again, this is a really super simple process, and you can see I'm being quite rough with it, but what I'm doing is leaving the brown in between spaces where the track pads don't contact the ground, so it sort of adds to that start of the weathering process where the brown is in between the tracks, but everything that contacts the ground or the wheels is its true colour. And look, this rubber black is quite nice because it's not quite super black. At this point, I do glue the wheels to the model with a bit of CA. You can leave them loose if you like, but I want to incorporate the weathering of the tracks into the rest of the weathering of the model. So the tracks get glued on. It's really simple. Bit of CA, and they fit beautifully. They're already blending quite nicely, but they've probably had very minimal weathering at this stage. So you know what I'm going to do? Break out the German camouflage beige and start with a couple of washes of that, and that really blends it in. I'm going to throw the antenna on the model. This is just some 50 thou brass rod with some brass tubing slotted in there because it was made up of three 3-foot lengths. And look, while the super glue is drying on that antenna, because I just literally glued it in, I'm going to paint in the tow cable, and this I'm using some AK burnt umber. It's just an acrylic paint that I've thinned quite heavily with water that helps it flow in. And when the CA is dried on the antenna, I can paint the olive green. These, any colour you like as long as they were green, the antennas. Moving on to chipping. This is just some dark brown AK acrylic with some packing sponge that I'm just very lightly applying some chips around some of the hatches and some of the areas that would have logically been chipped. The ends of the tow cable and the tow cable bracket there. And obviously around the top of the turret opening where the crew, their hands touch it and they bump stuff, and loading ammo into the turret, that sort of thing. Just some delicate chipping. Remember, these things didn't have a super long service life, so they weren't there from 1941. So you don't have to go too mental with the chipping. And then just adding some pencil, some sheen, some metallic sheen, like hinges and handles and places that would logically have a bit of shine to them where the paint's worn down. And once it's been penciled on, I just burnish a little bit with a cut-off stubby brush. It's really just adding a little bit of extra patina and a bit of wear to the model, where the hinges open and closed and where the handles get grabbed, that sort of thing. Again, you don't have to go too crazy. This, not a super old vehicle. While we've got the pencil out, I just add a bit of metal sheen to the tow rope as well. This is always fun because you end up colouring in something you're not supposed to. And same with the shovel head and the axe head and the sledgehammer head, and then just burnish it with that cut-off stubby brush again. This is always a good fun process. Soft stowage on the turret was then painted and detail painted with mixes of the olive drabs and beiges and khaki colours that I'd mixed the original paint with for these, and just to highlight some of the edging and some of the straps and that sort of stuff. It's a tedious process. It annoys me to have to do it, but you have to. And out with these Pro Acryl colours again to paint in the 50 cal ammo on this Masters 50 cal. If I could just get it in focus, come on, man. Here we go, in focus. Move them out of the way. This paint is incredible. It brush paints so well. So I've painted in the casing and also the projectiles and also the link, the black in the centre. And then just with a pencil again, just give the 50 cal a bit of a burnish, just to add that metallic sheen. It's probably a bit shiny for a 50 cal, but it looks pretty good. And then out with the stubby brush, just to burnish that up and give it a bit of sheen. Actually really shouldn't be that shiny in real life. I think the parkerizing on these was quite matte, but sue me, what are you going to do? As I mangle the grip on the 50 cal barrel. Whoops, better fix that. The turret opening, or the edges, were given some more metallic shine as well over the top of the chipping. The same process, just a grey lead pencil, and then burnish the edges with my stubby brush, trademark. And yeah, try to be logical about these chips. You know, where are the crew going to hang on to the edge of the turret? Where are they going to bump stuff into when they're loading ammo? You know, getting in and out of the turret top. You know, pretty simple sort of stuff. But I see chipping on models sometimes, and it's like, really, why would the chips be there? Then the beautiful Masters 50 cal can be glued in place. If I can get it in focus and in the centre of the screen, that would be good. You'd think I'd get it right by now. There you go. It's a absolute amazing looking thing. And an extra little bit of detail, these Masters 50 cal spent cases and empty link. So these 3D printed empty link, amazing. So the guy just put them into a little receptacle, might look like a beer cap there. Possibly is a beer cap. And these just get glued on with some crystal clear canopy glue, and look at, they're microscopically small. And I managed to not launch any into orbit, which is kind of fun. And just glue them to the top of the tank turret where they would fall out of the bottom of the gun. So with the 50 cal, the spent case falls out of the bottom of the weapon, and the link gets spat out the side. So yeah, I just put it where it would look, seems logical. Then we get to get out the panel line wash again. So I really like this stuff. So I don't want to have oil stains and goo everywhere, but just where you know, the gun recoils in and out of the mantlet, I just wanted an oily effect, and this is fantastic for doing exactly that. So I just apply the panel line wash, and then I'm just dabbing it away with a Q-tip or a cotton bud. It's a really pleasing effect. Just to look like a bit of where, you know, it was lubricated. I did the same thing with the muzzle as well. Just a bit of dark staining, and it looks quite good. Looks like gun staining. I bang on a bit about what my favourite process is, but I think adding fuel stains and oil stains and spills and stuff would have to be my favourite. So in an ideal world, this would be a diesel tank rather than a petrol engine tank, and I could go nuts with the oil stains and diesel stains, but this actually is got a gas engine or petrol engine, so can't go too mental. So really what I want to achieve is some oil staining, some fuel spills, and I guess water staining that look like accumulated stains in the dirt rather than sort of greasy diesel-y oil. So I'm using greys and browns to sort of capture that look, and these Tamiya panel liners are fantastic for that. So I just sort of dab them around the fuel fillers, and then it looks like sort of dried dirt and dust in the fuel spills there. And this stuff's fantastic for that. I just apply it, you know, with the applicator brush, and then just goop it around. And then you can actually use Tamiya enamel thinners to blend these in if you wanted to blend them in, if you didn't want such a harsh stain. And then just a bit of fuel spill down the side. Love the way it goes around that detail. And then with the brush that's just dipped, a bit of on screen, mate. There we go. Again with a Q-tip, and I just dab it around and blend it a little bit with a Q-tip. Just dry, no thinners on the Q-tip at all, just to break up the edges a bit. And then with some Tamiya enamel thinner and a pointed brush, I just blend the edges in and add some streaks and that sort of stuff. So it's a really simple and a really fun process. I really enjoy doing this. And there's no limit to what you can add. You can go crazy with them and add as many stains as you like. So this isn't rust, so please don't interpret this as rust. This is dirt and dust accumulated in fuel spills. And then we can do oil stains on the engine deck. So engine deck, those fan louvers covers will have been opened for the crew or for the maintainers to service the vehicle, service the engine. There'd be oil spills, they change an oil filter or something like that, and there's oil everywhere. So this is what this spattering is meant to replicate, and this is so much fun. So out with the MIG ammo brass toothpick, which is becoming more and more handy with every project. Don't be a hater. Embrace the toothpick. So just spatter it onto the model, and it looks like fuel spills and fuel drips, and that's oil spills. And again, just wherever you think it might logically accumulate, in panel lines and just random areas, I just dab it on. And the beauty of this Tamiya stuff is you can actually blend it in with their thinners. So break out the dark brown as well, and you can see how well the stains sort of sit in over the top of the dust. I think that's a really pleasing effect. I really like it. So the dark brown just adds a bit of a different colour to the staining and the spills. This is really cool. So much fun to do. I just spatter it around. Logically, obviously, where where you think these spatters would happen. And then you can blend them in a little bit with the brush dipped in enamel thinners if you want, or just leave them as is. I also add some staining in the dust and the mud and the dirt just around where the crew will service the bearings and the wheels and that sort of stuff. So see on the idler wheel here, there's 2 bearing grease nipple type arrangements. There you go, there and there. And just pop it around. And that's it. That's the last thing. So the last thing to do is to place the turret on the model, and we're done. So I'll leave you with a gallery of the finished model now. Thank you for sticking with it this far. Really appreciate everyone checking in and watching me progress so far. And please like and subscribe. Love to hear comments in the comments below. What do you want to see next? What cheeses you off about this model, that sort of thing. Anyway, thank you so much for sticking around. Please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.